Gutta's on his way. Welcome to Heat Map Fantasy Sports NFL Live Sunday, Week 11. Oh, it's an ugly week. It's an ugly week. Those checking on the stream or on the replay, please come check me out over on Twitter at Bankster17. Check the pinned tweet. $4 a week, $3.99. Get you access to all of our content: NHL, NBA, hockey, NASCAR, MMA, everything. Yep, I'm already promoing a Gutta. Went live because I'm impatient. Because it's that or I'm watching Ecuador. I just can't do that to myself right now. So I just started rambling with the promo since I knew you'd be coming on. So yeah, cover all the sports. $3.99 a week. Come check us out. The hockey's been crushing. I think we're gonna start doing hockey streams. I think I'm gonna try to start doing hockey streams once football season's over. Because I don't know, why not, right, Gutta? Might as well.
Yeah. Hey, whatever we can help with.
Sean and Topher ready to go. So there, I know Sean wants to do some live streams, so we'll check that out. How you doing today, Gutta?
I'm good. It's been a long weekend. I'm a little shot right now, but I'm ready to go.
Busy ass weekend for you. You were at a wedding, right? And something else was going on, like craziness, right?
Yeah, I had a couple of get-togethers yesterday, so I was yeah.
I'm just trying to take a real close look at my camera to see like what's keeping you awake. If it's energy, lack of sleep, or hair of the dog, or what's got you going on today?
You could probably still smell the alcohol through me from the last 2 days.
I know I'm 2.5 hours away, but I bet you I probably could, huh? 2 hours away. You're probably close, aren't you? You live pretty close, don't you?
Oh yeah, I'm only like 2 hours from you.
2 hours away? Oh yeah, that's not bad. So yeah, the alcohol smell, that must be what I smell in my basement today. Week 11, man. I know we've been saying each of the last 3 weeks, but this week sucks. This might be the worst week of fantasy in a long time. I wrote about it in my article. Like, optimizers are killing cash games. The DK pricing is killing cash games. There's just no value to be found. They're pre-pricing up all the potential value plays. Except Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell's still cheap as hell. So thank God for that. And Ramondre Stevenson's still underpriced. Thank God for that. But otherwise, DK is just, it's hard. It's hard. You got to be perfect to hit cash. You got to be perfect at this point.
For cash, it's very tough. I mean, the ownership is extremely concentrated this weekend. I mean, that's been kind of the trend all season long. I mean, there's no real matchup edge anymore, I guess you can say, where you used to be able to, if you had a mid or low range guy, going up against the Texans, let's say, well, people usually would not necessarily be on it, but a lot of that type of stuff is gone now, so you get ownership so concentrated. So it makes it really, really hard for cash because you either need to be perfect or you need to make the one perfect pivot to kind of get you there. That makes it really difficult.
Which, if you're going to have to make the perfect pivot and all you're doing is doubling your money, honestly, that's GPP strategy. We talked about it at the end of last year. I talked about in the article this week that if I'm going to try to be perfect or try to get a little contrarian or assume a little bit of extra risk, why am I only trying to double my money at that point? Why? Because I get that it's easier to finish in the top 50%, but at that point, you might as well just go GPP and try to hit a big score. To me, that's probably the smarter way to do it. But are you playing cash this week? Have you decided to dive into cash?
I mean, no, I'm
can't do it. Can't do it.
I'm just doing some GPP and really just doing a couple extra props to substitute for cash realistically. Because it's the same thing. If you're you look at your cash lineup or how you would build it, you just kind of take those guys and you look and see if their props, make sense, or some other guys maybe that are cash viable that you're not using that just have good props, and it's kind of you're banking on the same thing. It's not like you're banking on anything. It's not like you're taking Paris Campbell and saying, all right, Paris Campbell's my cash lineup, so I'm going to have him I'm going to bet his player prop to score a touchdown. You don't want to go that, but if his if you think he's a good cash play and his over under on the receiving is say 35 or 40 yards, you probably want to take the over because if he's going to hit for you for cash, he's probably going over that.
Agree completely. Couldn't agree more. I will probably go in and bet some extra props this week. Haven't done that yet. I like to usually do that right before kickoff, which is stupid because you probably get better lines before sharper plays get in there. But yeah, I think that's the smarter strategy. I'm not playing my normal amount this week. I'm playing about, 2/3, maybe 3/4 of my normal amount, but it's all GPP this week. I just did a couple of extra bigger tournaments. single or 3 entry, like 3 max. We'll do one $3, we'll do the $3, whatever it is, play action that we do every week here. So we'll try to pop something there. But other than that, I'm pretty much sticking to single entry or 3 max and doing a couple of the hundos, the $3 hundos, just to build a bankroll. Like that'll be like my cash. I went back to a cash plus strategy there, which we talked about earlier in the year. Kind of safe, but I correlated a little bit, and we'll talk about that lineup. But I do want to build the cash lineup in the 10 minutes we have before inactives, just for those who are going to try to play cash. I think, and I don't follow the roster percentages as much as you do. I don't really try to look at that too much, but we're pretty good at nailing down who's going to be the chalk. I think these guys are going to be pretty chalky. I also think, based on the fact that we're going to be riding, you said the traded, so that would lead me to believe this is part of the build right here. A little bit of David Montgomery. And if you're playing David Montgomery, you are probably using Danny Dimes, though I think there's some love for Prescott out there, which leave quite a bit of money. My guess is, in that case, you're going to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, I feel like cash kind of plays itself this week. Like, I do think this is the cash lineup to play. And at this point, I actually like Patterson this week, but he's coming in at under 5%, so I don't think you need to play him in cash. I got a ton of Patterson in tournaments. And when we get to the tournament, we'll talk about how we're playing the Chicago-Atlanta game. But I think it's a really viable game to play. But I'm probably running Cortland Sutton out here because I do think his target volume will be pretty high. And I know people are playing Skoranek. I'd rather play Higbee. I just think he's a safer play. And to me, this is your cash lineup. I think I like Fields, quite honestly. I would feel pretty good playing Fields and maybe Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson against Houston and then coming down off of Sutton. But I think that's with a couple of switches in there. I think this is probably your safest bet. Am I missing someone? Am I off on that, or does this look like what's the standard cash build this week?
I think that'll be kind of close. It'll be so. It's interesting with like the tight end spot. What people look at. A lot of people
running double tight end right this week.
No, not so much that, but who they take if they use Schultz or maybe Dulcich over Higbee. But then you get into Lamb is going to be really highly owned, so I don't know if you'll see Lamb and Schultz combos in cash just because. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you do see a lot of Fields and Montgomery on lineups. Like I think Montgomery is the guy that's like the 80% owned player this week. And then I still think Fields is going to be probably 40 to 50% owned. I just think that people are just going to try to continue to ride the hot hand, and if they don't use him, they probably use Daniel Jones. I don't know if we'll see a lot of Josh Allen in cash today. Just because of the price, and there are some a little more pricier guys that are getting a little love on the cash side.
I think, you and I like to talk a lot about bad chalk. And as much as I like David Montgomery as a player, I can't stack him with Fields because if Fields is doing what Fields does, I don't think you're going to see as much Montgomery. I would put, and this is one of the reasons I'm not playing cash this week, is I don't think Montgomery is good chalk. He could be good chalk, and he's shown it in the past, but I don't think they want to give him the lion's share. I think Ebner will get some work. I think Fields is still going to get a lot of work. And I just don't love Montgomery. So I've done everything I could to avoid him in my cash lineups. And I was like, why even bother? Why even bother going with it? Matt wants to know, is he dumb for running double tight end in his lineups? No, because that's where you're going to find the value. Outside of, if you're looking at cheap wide receiver plays this week for cash, particularly, but even for tournaments, I think tournaments, it opens up a little bit more. But if you're looking at the sub 5K guys, Garrett Wilson's in play. Paris Campbell's in play. And this is from a cash perspective. Nico Collins is in play because he had a high target volume. And then you're looking at Ben Skoranek. I mean, those are your 4 guys under 5K who are cash viable. And they're still 40 some odd $100. I do, again, tournament wise, I think Jalen Virgil's a great tournament play this week at 3,200. But if you're going to run double tight end, are you really that much worse off running, I don't know, Higbee with, let's come up a little bit on here. Higbee with Dawson Knox, your boy. Henry with Hunter Henry. Higbee with Hayden Hurst, with Moreau, with Dulcich. I don't think, or with Schultz. I'm just not going to play him in cash with Lamb. Or Freiermuth even, or Komet even. I think the lower end or the mid-range, what's considered mid-range for a tight end, but would be a punt for flex. I do think that there is an argument that can be made for double tight end if you've already got Paris Campbell in your lineup. I think if you're spending down, Paris Campbell's the number one guy you should be spending down on at sub 4,500. And then you could probably filter some tight ends, especially if your second tight end is a, I don't know if you're running like an and there, but other than that, I mean, from Pitts down, Pitts I think is more of a tournament play, obviously, but from Pitts down, you can run double tight end, and there's a lot of viable mid-range tight ends today.
Yeah.
How do you feel about double tight end today, Gutta?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it gets you that value side, and I mean, for a lot of these tight ends on where they're priced versus what some of the value is at wide receiver that you look for. I mean, there's it's very comparable. Like Dulcich and Moreau should be just as involved in the game plan as say we're hoping that Ben Skoranek is, or even Paris Campbell. You get a little lower, like with Dawson Knox. I mean, it's a similar type of idea in what you're looking for, and I would even argue that the tight ends probably have a little more touchdown upside versus some of those wide receivers in that price range. And also too, like if you're using double tight end, but your first tight end you're using say Mark Andrews because you think it's just like a blowout spot here, and Andrews gets you in the end zone twice. Well, now again, you're substituting for, you're substituting for that kind of punt wide receiver spot, and also too for that higher end wide receiver as well. I mean, the only time it doesn't make sense, like if you try to get too cute and you use like Lawrence Cager and Jack Stoll, both at 2,500. Yeah, if you double tight end that way, I mean, you're asking for trouble, and you may as well just burn your money doing something like that. But using double tight end is never a bad idea when there's a lack of kind of standout value in other spots.
Yeah, the burning your money, as I like to tell my dad when he makes his, he likes to round robin all the defensive teams, all the teams to get a defensive TD. And I'm like, honestly, Dad, just hand me whatever money you bet on it, and I'll punch you in the face. It'll be the same result. Same thing if you're double tight ending Stoll and the Giants guy. I usually stay away from it too, Matt. But this week I'm not opposed. As you can see, this is my Cash Plus lineup. I remember from week one, and we kind of got away from Cash Plus a little bit because I think Cash was okay, but now that we're running into a little difference in Cash, maybe we pull some correlation. So a Cash Plus is basically a Cash lineup with just a little bit of correlation. So in this lineup, what I did was for my tight end position, I went with Komet to correlate with Fields. I don't think Komet's got the highest floor, but he does have the touchdown equity, so there's that little bit of upside there. If he gets, I think he's had 13 targets the last 2 weeks. That's pretty reasonable at his price point. And then instead of using Montgomery, who I do think could be bad chalk, not is bad chalk, but could be bad chalk, I went with Patterson at under 5%. But I just think that's wrong. Like I think they had the mini bye essentially from the Thursday game. They didn't really use him in that game, but they used him the week prior when he came back from injury, and he was really good. And we know Chicago can't stop the run. So I think this is a Patterson week. I'm hoping it is because I have a lot of Patterson this week. But I think in a Cash Plus type of a lineup, I think he'll get enough work to at least have that a little bit of upside. But there's again the plus part because there's that little bit of risk. And then the rest of the lineup is essentially the same lineup I would have run for a cash game. So I just got Fields instead of Daniel Jones, and I've got Komet instead of Cortland Sutton and Patterson instead of David Montgomery. And you'll see I actually double tight ended there as well because I think the correlation between Komet and Fields is good, and there's just no receiver at that price, at that $4,000 price tag that Higbee's at, that gives me the same kind of floor with upside. I do think obviously a Jalen Virgil. I keep talking about him, but Jalen Virgil at 3,200, especially if Kendall Hinton is limited or doesn't play. I think Virgil's a guy who can get down the field, and Russell Wilson loves to go deep, and I love me some Jalen Virgil from preseason. And he's got the upside, but Higbee has just got the volume. I mean, last week, Cooper Kupp gets injured, and Higbee's right back to getting those 8 targets. I'll take a 15-point type floor. I'll take a 6-target floor, a 10-target, an 8-target, that kind of range. I think he's good for 7 to 10 targets. And in a Cash Plus kind of a lineup, and this is what I'm running out in the hundos, this is the kind of lineup that I'm going to put into a tournament that's got 100 people, single entry, low buy-in. want that safety. I want to get over the cash line, but I want a little bit of upside, and that's where the correlation comes in. So that's why I go with the Higbee over that. And again, you could change this lineup by going down to a Jalen Virgil instead of Higbee to get that second, that upside, and then upgrade Patterson. Then you lose the correlation. But so kind of play with that a little bit. But this is kind of where I'm going for Cash Plus this week and this is the lineup I'm most comfortable entering. Though it's got that a little bit of safety and a little bit of risk. And it's now 11:30. It's time for inactives. I don't think we're really tracking anything big this week, Gutta, right? I mean, this doesn't feel like a week where we're really waiting on anything.
Yeah, I think it's more just kind of minor or complimentary stuff. And also too, I guess the only kind of big one is the kind of devolvement, I guess you can say, with Gus Edwards over the last day and a half. He seemed to have been trending really well. And then I don't know, it just kind of just all of a sudden on a dime, yesterday that, he wasn't trending as well. He would play, but maybe be very, very limited. And now this morning, it's kind of well, Drake is going to be the lead back. And they're already, one of the beat writers is already reporting that Edwards hasn't even been warming up yet. So I'll be very curious because I love the spot for the Baltimore running backs, especially with the massive spread that there is. And,
yes,
Andrews is still a little banged up. Lamar is not exactly fully healthy. If Baltimore gets out to a decent lead, and if their defense is holding the past couple of weeks, the defense has improved tremendously. I mean, Drake, I was thinking the running backs were going to get 30 to 40 touches to begin with. And if Edwards is limited or even potentially out, I mean, you're looking at maybe 20 to 25 touches for Drake, and I don't think that's really out of the realm of possibility. And right now, I mean, he's not carrying any ownership, and even during the week, earlier in the week, Edwards wasn't carrying anything either. So people were
he's out officially now. He's officially inactive, Gus Edwards, which,
wow.
Oh, by the way, makes me so happy for for my Rainmakers, where I invested heavily in Gus Edwards this week. So I got some lineup changes. So so now we're in on Drake. I actually think this makes Drake a semi-cash viable play. I don't see how he's not going to get the work to be a play. It's weird how one little thing. So that's a big one. You're right. That was one that I hadn't seen, that he was trending downwards. I mean, he's still pricey at 5,900. But I think he's more of a cash.
And if
the upside's kind of there,
and I mean, I'll monitor to see if by time we get off, if any of Drake's ownership moves. But I mean, Drake is an unbelievable pivot off of David Montgomery for $200 less in really just as good of a matchup, if not maybe even a better matchup. I mean,
Josh Reynolds out again this week, and I think DJ Chark got activated. He got activated off IR, isn't on the injury report now, so I do think we'll see some DJ Chark, and I don't mind him as a second receiver if you're running a Detroit stack. Mark Andrews active, which I freaking love Baltimore. Now AJ Terrell is active, which hurts the Chicago passing game. AJ Terrell being active for the Falcons, but you're not stacking the Chicago passing game for the passing game. So I guess that's not a huge deal.
No, and even before he got hurt, he wasn't playing as well as he was last year either. Yep. I mean, if you were looking I personally think Mooney's a solid play this week. If you were looking that way, I don't think that really changes anything on Mooney or using the Chicago passing game in a sense.
The entire island of misfit toys are out for the Texans. Somehow this week they signed both Amari Rodgers and Eno Benjamin. Missed those signings, but they're inactive for Houston, so don't try to get cute there. Brevin Jordan's also inactive, but if you're using any of the Houston passing game, you've got issues. David Johnson was called up to the active roster for the Saints, and he will be active today with Mark Ingram being inactive. But I don't think David Johnson, Alvin Kamara before he was Alvin Kamara, is going to take any work away from Alvin.
I mean, the ghost of David Johnson.
Yeah, the ghost of David Johnson. Yeah, David Johnson's moving corpse.
There was an interesting one that popped up for the Colts. Their starting right guard, Matt Pryor, was in the hospital this morning with some type of illness, so he's out. So it just weakens that Colts offensive line from the mess they've kind of already been this year. So I think if you had an eye on Jonathan Taylor and all that, that doesn't help it too much. And also too, I think Deion Jackson is back as well, so that could take some pass work away from Taylor, which made him so appealing last week.
David Njoku back to being active, so no interest anymore in Harrison Bryant. Njoku could be an interesting tournament play. Devontae Parker active. I don't think that's going to hurt Jacoby Myers. I think they're doing completely different things.
And also,
Kaiir Elam is out again for the Bills, which could help Njoku also.
Same thing. Bills. Edmonds is out. Elam is out. So Rousseau is out again. No Tre'Davious White still. So they're a little banged up. Poyer is back, which will help, but yeah, it's a little bit weaker over the middle. Could help Njoku there.
Yep. I'm just waiting to see. There's a couple more. Waiting on Wan'Dale Robinson. See if I want to see the Giants inactives, because I do like Slayton this week. All right. Well, Ecuador up 2-0 on Qatar. I guess my Qatar money line bet was stupid. Kind of expected the fix to be in on that one. So that's crazy. Yeah. All right. We are Justin Jefferson turf toe. Yeah, it's an afternoon game. He's going to be fine. Justin Jefferson should play. We had not touched on it yet, but Jefferson, I think, is fine to play today. I don't have
he's definitely playing. Everything that I've seen this morning says that it's not really going to affect him. It's more of a mild case, and he shouldn't be limited or anything. Obviously, there's always the risk of him kind of like re-injuring it or making it worse. But I guess you can technically say that about any player out there on a football field too.
Exactly.
But yeah, a guy like Jefferson, if you like him this week, if he fits in within your lineups, definitely go and use him. Especially if that news brings his ownership down a little bit more, I think it's worthwhile.
Yes. Any other thing? Have we seen the Giants yet? Have they come across, or are we still just kind of wait? We're just waiting on the Giants.
Yeah.
I'm just getting a guy out of my lineup and putting in some Kenyon Drake. I'm feeling like I need to get some exposure there, because that's it's what I do here. Montgomery. All right, I only have one share of Montgomery today. Can't complain. Had two. Now I only have one. Feel much better about it. All right, we'll take this Cash Plus lineup out, and let's we'll wait on that Giants, but no point in not jumping into tournaments, seeing as that's what we're playing this week. Chicago, Atlanta. If you're playing cash, Justin Fields, David Montgomery are your cash options. I do like Patterson Plus. Cole Kmet for a little Cash Plus correlation with Fields. I assume this is one of your bigger tournament games of the week there, Gutta?
Yeah, it's definitely.
I didn't get a chance to see your updates from last night, so I'm guessing at this point where you're at after your initial article.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more appealing spots. You get no worries about weather or anything like that. Obviously in the dome, and yeah, you got two bad. It's always interesting, right? When you get two bad teams that the offenses aren't great per se. They have some strengths, but they're not great. But you get two bottom five defenses, you got an 80, where are we at? 48.5 point total. You can see this game get close to 60, or they can, flop and someone wins 10-7. It's just kind of like that range of outcomes with teams like this. But yeah, I think this is one of the spots too where you can even get a little creative with the pieces, because using the quarterbacks, there's no like kind of natural stacking in a sense. If you use Fields, as we've seen the past 2 weeks, you can use him naked and you're kind of good. You can definitely use him
this week.
Yeah, you can use him with Kmet, because Kmet's been used in the red zone, which really is not a shock. People were a little more down on Kmet, I guess, because he hadn't really scored many touchdowns his first 2 years, but that was also because of Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham was the guy that they rolled him out in the wheelchair just to get him in the end zone for a jump ball. But now with Graham not there, Kmet's that red zone guy, and he's got the ability to break some plays as well. So he's really good there. I still like Mooney. I think Mooney is solid. And even like Atlanta side, I think that you can use Mariota because he's got just some some rushing upside there. And if they ever have a game where their pass game actually does something, and he throws for 225 yards. I mean, the guy's going to get you 25 points if he can, if he breaks 200 passing yards. It's just kind of how it probably breaks out with him in all this. And I think you can be very creative here. Like I think if you use Fields, you can use Patterson as your bring back, or even Patterson and Pitts. And I think same thing the other side. I think if you're using Mariota, and you're not using Fields, well, you can use Montgomery in a Mariota stack because if you're using Mariota, you're basically playing I think Mariota dollar for dollar does more than Fields does. And if that's the case, if Fields does not quite get you there for what we really, for that 30 to 35 points we really need, it probably means Montgomery is taking a touchdown from him. So I think you can be creative and kind of play it that way as well.
I think I love going Fields. Patterson. I've got a lot of Fields. Patterson. This every week we'll say, is this the week that Kyle Pitts finally breaks out? I mean, probably not. He's a decent running back, and a lot of people are on. I mean, look, the targets are there, by the way. 20, what is that? 24 targets the last 3 weeks. That's pretty good. He just isn't doing anything with them yet. But they're definitely looking for him. And then a lot of people are on Drake London this week. If 5,100, that's a good price. But I think I'm probably not going there. But again, 18 targets the last 3 weeks. I mean, between him and Pitts, you've definitely got a very condensed target market for Mariota if you're going to run Mariota, because Patterson's only got one target a game pretty much every day. So it's if you're going to full stack this game, you run Mariota, Montgomery, London, Pitts, and from the Atlanta side, I think, and that's pretty economical, and you can do a lot of other things with your lineups going that route. This could be one of the more fun games of the week, or it's Chicago Atlantic, so it could be a freaking stinker too.
Yeah. All right, so we did get the Giants inactives. Robinson is active.
Oh, that's good. I still like Slayton, but I do think Robinson takes away a little bit, but maybe he takes some of the attention off. And also Robinson can run the underneath stuff, and Slayton can go downfield.
Kenny Golladay is active, so Galladay's scoring 2 touchdowns in his revenge game.
Oh sure. Kenny Golladay might not run 2 routes this week. In what is the true epitome of what Gutta has termed an island game, we have got Carolina and Baltimore. And by island game, Gutta, if I understand correctly, only one team worth looking at in this game, not a second team.
Usually. I mean, so the island game is really reflective of a team having a high implied team total and then a really big spread to go along with it. I mean, there's some weeks where
Baltimore,
there's guys from the bad team, but with Baker Mayfield starting, I would not dare touch anything in Carolina. This is to me is the ultimate island game, right? I mean, it's a high spread. Oh, yeah.
I think Baltimore has the second highest implied team total for the week, and nobody's using them. From what I can tell, nobody's using Baltimore this week. There's not a lot of pieces, but they're 2 big pieces, right? Jackson and Andrews. We can do that, right?
You can. I mean, I even think you can.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna use them a little bit for sure, because I mean, the Jackson Andrews combination always has the potential to be the highest scoring on the slate. I mean, Lamar hasn't done that much in a few weeks. But I mean, listen,
you mean since Andrews has been out?
Yeah, I mean, so now with Andrews back, I mean, I think there's a good possibility of the 2 of them really going off, and also too, like with the way that they can move the ball and everything. I mean, Jackson and Andrews can get you there in the first half. So I even think too, I think it'd be interesting. You kind of go off that like onslaught mentality. I think you can even make an argument for a Jackson, Drake, and Andrews stack, just taking hopefully all the touchdowns, just the real onslaught, and that those are the 3 guys that do everything in this game. You don't see it that often, but it kind of harkens back to those Steeler days with Ben, Bell and Antonio Brown, and these guys aren't necessarily that level, but you can definitely get that type of output with with the opponent in Carolina. Carolina's secondary is okay, which I think helps Mark Andrews that much more as well. And you can run on Carolina all day long.
Patrick Ricard, 3 touchdown game coming just to make sure you don't get all the touchdowns. From being one of my favorite games to stack to a game that obviously I'll have interest in, but less because it's going to end up being super duper chalky is this Cleveland Buffalo game. Like when the game was going to be played in Buffalo, I loved it because no one wanted to play it because of the 6 feet of snow. It freaking stopped snowing yesterday. There was no snow during the game today. It was such a manageable game. Ownership would be down to nothing, and you could take the Bills at home against Cleveland for no ownership. And now people are like, oh, game's in Detroit. Like, they're going to be fine. And the game sold out, and it's all Buffalo fans, and it's going to be a home game, even louder, in perfect conditions. Buffalo could put up 50, and it's like, well, crap, everyone's going to have Buffalo now, and that sucks. Are you going to be overweight, underweight, normal weight? How are you playing this game?
Probably equal. I mean, because also too, it's there are a couple different ways to stack it from the Buffalo end, because you can definitely use Diggs, Davis, and Knox to some sort of combination, and also too anytime you get one of the higher priced stacks, even using the stack, that might be popular, but you're going to get very unique because it's just your options are limited to what you can do, but everybody looks at that limited option in different ways. I'm using Peoples-Jones more as the bring back, but one way that I love playing it is using Nick Chubb as the bring back.
Interesting.
I think this is setting up really, really well for Chubb. And again, this is the type of slate that you kind of, to an extent, you throw the matchup out the window and you just look and say, all right, which guys have the highest ceilings? And again, Chubb is always a tough one, but his range of outcomes are like 5 points or 30 points. He's never, he's never really he's there, in the middle, but you're shooting for that ceiling. You're shooting for the game where it's 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe 3 touchdowns. Like, you're looking for that. And also too, because ownership is going to be so concentrated on, other running backs. I mean, listen, if Chubb only gets you, say, 28 points, but all the chalky running backs fail, I mean, you're still getting a big advantage there as well. So I do think there's a lot of, good routes here. And also too, I did find it a little easier if you're using the Bills stack. If you go Allen, Knox, and Gabe Davis, it makes it easier to use Chubb as that kind of bring back.
You know who's going to be completely underrepresented this week? Singletary. Especially at that price point, with right around the Montgomery price point. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week. He had somewhat of a target floor, 2 to 5 targets, Not a big rushing guy, but do you know who sucks against the run? Cleveland sucks against the run. So I'm not saying Devin Singletary is going to put up 150 and 3 touchdowns, but I have a lot of Devin Singletary. He reminds me so very much of Jeff Wilson from last week, in a game where you've got this team that can throw a ton going up against the team, the Cleveland Browns, who can't stop the run. And Jeff Wilson had a great game last week. And I'm running a lot of Devin Singletary, Donovan Peoples-Jones stacks. Because let's not forget, Peoples-Jones was 1 yard away from 15, 18-point game. I mean, he was right there. Like, he had himself a nice week. I'm going right back to Peoples-Jones. Depending upon how things work out, and if I find somewhere else I like, I might actually flip over to Njoku in this case as well. And if you run just as a mini stack, obviously not as my main stack. If I'm doing a main stack, it's going to be the Josh Allen side. But as a mini stack, I think Devin Singletary, a lot of Devin Singletary today, which could be a kiss of death. But I also had a lot of Jeff Wilson last week, and that worked out really well. I do think this game sets up really well for Singletary. So that's one way that I'm playing this. I'm just going with the Jeff Wilson argument from last week.
No, I agree. I mean, Singletary sets up fantastic as a solid contrarian play coming off of the passing game. And again, it's just the touchdowns go Singletary's way, and there you go.
So, Washington, Houston. There's some thought. I think it was your article, but it might not have been, about Washington, maybe being worthwhile this week against Houston from a passing standpoint. And I heard this narrative on the radio, and we love to talk about narratives, even though they don't really mean much, but there is something to the motivation factor. Ron Rivera despises Lovie Smith. Like, I don't know if you knew that, but apparently, you know how Ron Rivera, he played for the Bears in the 80s and was on the coaching staff and, was aspiring to be the coach of the team and to move up in the ranks, and Lovie Smith canned him. And so Ron Rivera had to start over and work his way back up, and he apparently despises Lovie Smith. As it turns out, Houston has just a complete shit defense. And if there's ever a week for Ron Rivera to run up a score, this could be the week. So you bet your ass I'm running some Washington stacks here, even though I think the running game is really where it's at against Houston. Now, I know you didn't know about the narrative. I can see from the look on your face you didn't know about this Ron Rivera narrative. But outside of that, did you have interest in this game at all? Was it you? I heard it from someone else.
No, not the Washington pass side.
No.
I'm not really too crazy there. I mean, it could be fine. I mean, McLaurin's a solid play. I mean, his targets have been, through the roof since Heineke took over and everything. So I think McLaurin could be he's dirt cheap. I mean, because they did the pricing obviously before that Monday night game. I mean, if they did it after Monday, he probably would have been 6,500 or a little bit higher, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think McLaurin is solid, but I do love the running backs here. I think you can use either running back, or you can even get creative. I think you can use, both guys in combination, and even, add the element of putting the Commanders defense there. I think that's I think that could be special. I think that could be a really strong play, because also too, if say Gibson and Robinson both get you there, I mean, the Washington defense is probably playing really, really strong, unless this game ends up, putting up 55 points, which I don't know if we get to see that. So, I mean, Houston's run defense is just, it's an abomination. It's just that perfect spot for running backs, and Washington loves to run the ball. I mean, they ran it a ton last week against Philly. I mean, the game worked out well for that, but if they can do that again, they're going to do that again. I mean, there's no reason not to.
In my head, I know Brian Robinson's the guy who should carry the load, and I should be into using him, but I can't get off Antonio Gibson this week. I think he's underpriced for his potential upside. If he can get 11 to 15 carries plus 3 to 5 catches, I mean, that's a Walmart version of Alvin Kamara, like that. Yeah. And he's good inside the 5. Like he's not a bad inside the 5 runner, and we've seen him do it before. And so I could see this being the kind of game where Robinson might run between the 20s a little bit, but on passing downs, and Gibson still gets his work a little bit. And I could just see Gibson just, getting the benefit of those goal line touches. And this could be, a really strong game for him, unless Robinson just breaks a few, or they just pound the crap out of the kid. And that's possible too. But I just think Gibson's a better player. I like Brian Robinson. I do think he's an NFL player, tough-nosed running back, but Gibson's he's a more special talent. And I just think he's the guy for the upside.
And also too, I mean, they're finally using Gibson the right way. I mean, it took McKissick getting hurt, but they're finally using Gibson the way they really should have been the last 2 years.
I mean, we all know he was a wide receiver for a while in college, and they never passed him the ball, but look what they're doing now. Now he's getting those 3+ targets a game, and he's producing. So I just think he's the better fantasy option, even though Robinson could Jerome Bettis his way into a couple touchdowns. I'm going with the talent in this one. And I do have a lot of Antonio Gibsons. Philly, Indy, weird this game in that I don't hear any chatter about this game. You see nothing of this game other than how they're going to replace Dallas Goedert. And it's like, there are other players in this game worth talking about, right? Like, are we going to get 3% Jalen Hurts? Could we get another low-owned Jonathan Taylor week against a Philly defense that has not been particularly stout against the run over the last few weeks? I mean, they've given up. Look at this. The last few weeks, 152, 168, 144, 134, 124. They are not stopping the run right now. And Jonathan Taylor may be the most talented running back in football. Can we get a AJ Brown stack? I mean, like, at low ownership, this could be that week again. We could go right back to Jonathan Taylor is going to lead fantasy players to glory this week, and no one's talking about him.
Yeah,
I missed it.
Yeah, no, I mean the potential is there. I'm I was thinking about Taylor earlier in the week. I have shied away a little bit. I mean, again, Deion Jackson being active maybe takes some work away. I don't know how they may go about it, or if Saturday's just gonna ride the horse. And they're missing another starting offensive lineman again. So I don't know. I don't have much of a read on this one just because it's not overly appealing to me. I definitely think there's an argument for a Hurts and AJ Brown skinny stack. Because with Goddard being out now, I mean, Brown could command a lot more of those targets potentially over the middle, or just more targets in general. And then Hurts is Hurts. Hurts on any given week can give you 35 to 40 points, which on this type of slate, getting that same upside, but coming off of guys like Allen and Fields, that could be a massive help as well.
There has been, and I know it's crazy, but there has been some weird chatter talk that I heard on SiriusXM that there was a consideration to have AJ Brown run a lot of the same routes that Goddard had run, have him being more of an inline receiver because he's so big. Have him run down the seam, which would then, I don't think, I don't know how much that's true, but I do think it opens up a little bit of love for Quez Watkins, perhaps. He had a nice game last week with 4 targets. Maybe the biggest beneficiary of the Goddard injury is Quez Watkins getting some more looks. And if you don't want to spend up, or you don't want to on Devonta Smith, or you don't want to roll the dice on which Philly receiver or which Philly tight end gets the looks, maybe you run a Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Quez Watkins stack if you want to double stack the Eagles. And a tournament, of course, but you run that stack and see where that can take you. I think there's a real interesting route there. And I have, again, more Quez Watkins than I'd like to admit today. But I think if there's going to be between Quez Watkins and Jalen Virgil, this is a weird week for me with the ownership I have on them. But is it possible that this is in play, or am I just listening to too much radio and I should just not?
Yeah, I mean, that one's a little harder for me.
It does seem a little crazy, right?
Yeah, and I don't think Brown has done. I'm looking up to see what he does, how often he's lining up in the slot. Because if he's not lining up inside all that often, I don't know if they would really, change up. Yeah, he's running out of the slot like 25% of the time. So I don't know how much more they may elevate that. I suppose it's possible, because if they do that, if they have him running more of those Goddard type routes, I mean, the mismatch, whether it's a linebacker or a safety, I mean, it's, he'd be running roughshod over the, whole game. I mean, so I
get excited thinking about it.
I mean, it's definitely something there. I can see it if they do that. It's it's a huge upside. And this reminds me of when they played Pittsburgh and Brown went off. It was just, that week was a little bit of a tough week too. And we would, we got to the point that you were like, well, just play the best players. And, if you were able to build it properly, I mean, Hurts and Brown was the top duo that week. I mean, the price affected some of the other guys you were able to get in, but still, I mean, listen, if this
is the week to do it.
We're talking on Slack tonight, and Hurts and AJ Brown are the top QB, top wide receiver. It wouldn't shock me in the least bit.
I mean, I just built one. You can double stack with a double run back on this game. You can go Hurts, Brown, Quez, Campbell, and Taylor, and still have room for another high-end running back, a mid-range tight end, your punt defense. Like, you can do that pretty easily with one extra punt built in there. Like that, is it really so bad to run those guys? I don't think it is. I just think this is one of those games we look back at the end of the week and are like, how did more people not get on that game? And I don't want to be on that side where, you're going to, as soon as AJ Brown scores that first touchdown, or heaven for you, Quez Watkins scores a touchdown, I'm going to be all in Slack going, just play the guys,
I've got a lot of Quez Watkins on best ball teams, so I'm okay with that.
So you'd be happy with that? That's awesome. New England versus the Jets. I love Stevenson in cash. I can accept Garrett Wilson in cash because of the potential target volume, and I think he had a pretty good day the last time these two teams faced. 6 for 115. But this this is not the game, right? We're back to the just let this game let's just pass.
Yeah, it's kind of it's Stevenson and the Pats defense. That's kind of it. It's supposed to be a little extra windy. It's going to be that really cold, just kind of bitter northeast type of weather. I mean, it's going to be sunny, it's clear, but it's in the 30s. It's going to feel like it's 20 or 15 degrees with that wind bite. It's just going to be one of those tough outdoor games. I think it's one of those that I think this is. I mean, the Jets defense has been much better, but now the Patriots coming off the bye and everything, I think this shapes up kind of like that Damian Harris game last year. I think Stevenson's going to get 25 touches, and I think he's getting in the end zone 2 to 3 times today. I just think it's because again, it's a little bit of a difficult matchup. Jets defense has been good, but I just think Belichick 2 weeks to prepare, and he knows the Jets like the back of his hand. I think this is just one of those embarrassment games. The Pats win 21-0, and it's just a mess kind of a thing. But Stevenson gets all of it.
I think the Jets win. Just throw that out.
All right.
I think the Jets will win. They're a different team.
I would love it.
Solid. I know you'd love it.
Listen, I would love it.
Rams Saints, outside of maybe Skoranek or Higbee, you can't. I know I said it with the last game, but you can't like anything in this game. It's got like a 39 total. The quarterbacks are playing like dog shit. Like, I know you like your defenses, so we'll throw the the obligatory. Maybe you can play the defense in there, absolutely. But like, anyone, like, you feel comfortable here at all with outside of maybe a nice high floor from Higbee?
No, I mean that's it. I mean, I'm not even really considering Higbee, to be honest. But yeah, I mean he should get enough volume. Skoranek, that's really it. I mean,
garbage.
I mean the New Orleans side, it's tough. I mean the New Orleans side, Olave and Kamara always have sky high ceilings, but they're priced high, and the Rams defense is still decent. They still have their talent there. They're still relatively healthy.
Do you think Kyren Williams does something? Can we get some work out of Kyren Williams? Maybe he caught 3 passes last week. He wasn't so far hitting value last week at his 3K price point or 4K price point.
Yeah, I mean he's up to 4,800, so you're gonna need more substantial work. And I mean also too, like Akers and Henderson are both working in, and the Rams just aren't having sustained drives. They're not running a ton of plays that you can say, and like. Yeah, Kyren Williams may be better off if New Orleans was up 28-0, but I don't know if we see anything like that either.
28, I'd take the under on 28 combined points in this game. This is my under bet. Like, the total's 39.5, and over the last X amount of years, I can't remember the exact stat, but the under is hitting a ridiculous amount on games with 39.5 or less total. So, like, I kind of
and also too, I mean, the game might have a touch more appeal if Winston was playing, because Winston just slings it around. But, I mean, Dalton's just so blah. It's terrible.
Yeah, for real blah. It's windy here in New York. Matt's hearing 30 mile per hour gusts in Jersey, which does hurt some of my Slayton love. It really does, which means maybe I switch off to somewhere else, or I just know better than to tinker. It cost me so much money in hockey last night tinkering based on some last-second news that changed my lines, and it wasn't even a tinker. It was just reacting to a line change. So I can't react to the weather on this one because I can't just give up a slate in like 30-point game. Not that that's going to happen. God forbid I change him. He's going to go off. So this game, though, we do know the wind's a factor. Barkley's in a great spot. Jones should be in a great spot. Like, this could be offensively decent, or it could be another one of those. This could be the dud game of the week. This could be 12-7, like a 13-7, whatever it is. Like, wind, garbage, Detroit outdoors. Looking forward to both teams playing on Thanksgiving. Just a blah, let's go home and eat some turkey kind of game. Which side are you on this? There's no middle. It's good or not good. Can't be a middle game. Won't allow it.
Probably not good.
Yeah. This is that game, right? This is going to be the disappointment game of the week, isn't it?
I mean, that's the highest probability, I would say. Yeah.
With the wind, that hurts the receivers too. Like, Amon-Ra is less interesting. Slayton's less interesting.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra,
I mean,
so that could help.
I mean, the one thing that it could help, or that really the wind won't affect it with Chark back now. If that gives St. Brown a little more run into the slot because they don't need him outside as much. Those passes are not as long, so the wind isn't really a factor with some of that. I actually really like the running games here. Barkley is really difficult to get in. And even you look at Barkley's numbers from last week. What do you have? 35 touches, and he still didn't even get you 4x. So Barkley's not really catching Barkley's not catching passes, which I'm really really surprised about, given all the
passes.
Yeah, given the lack of weapons and everything, he's not really doing much in the passing game, which is a real shock because that was always one of his stronger suits. He's running the ball a ton, but he's not having multiple touchdown games either. So his price tag is a little hard to justify here.
Forget 4x. He's only hit 3x on this price once all year long.
Yeah. So it makes it, if I'm getting 8,900, I'd rather find the extra $200 to use Justin Jefferson. I think the upside and the ceiling is much greater there. And I really like Jamal Williams too. Williams is having a really solid season, and the Giants run defense can be had, and the Lions like to run the ball. I think there's a good shot there for Williams as well. So, and I do like Slayton also. I think Slayton will be all right.
I just think this is the game that's going to disappoint a lot of people this week. So easily disappoint a lot of people. Which means I need to go edit some lineups. I gotta chill on some exposure to that game. I have a little too much, I think, especially with the winds. Wind is worse than anything else. Wind is a real problem for football. Boy, we'll continue our run of just cluster messes. Vegas and Denver. I have actually a little bit of interest on the Denver side in this game, especially because the $3,200 Jalen Virgil, who again I have too much exposure to today. But a lot of people are talking about Josh Jacobs as a potential play. I don't know against Denver. Denver is just. I really think the Denver passing game is the way to go. If you're going anywhere in this game, even though Vegas is terrible against the run, who are we going to take? How are you playing this one?
I think Jacobs is actually a solid play. He had a really good game against Denver, earlier, and it's how you beat Denver on the ground. And Jacobs gets phased out if Denver's going down and scoring easily. Do we really have confidence in that happening? I don't know about that. But yeah, and then that's the other thing too. Wilson's best game this year did come against Vegas. Vegas is, pass defense is atrocious as well. So I think there could be an argument there for it. Like Cortland Sutton's probably going to be extremely popular this week. If you're looking to use Sutton, I don't know if I would have Sutton as a one-off. If I'm going to use Sutton, I probably got Russell Wilson with him realistically. Because if Sutton's going to get you 100 yards and a touchdown and get you, close to what you need, or even to get 4x, he's probably scoring 2 touchdowns or getting you 150 yards. Wilson's probably slinging it around realistically. So I think that's I think it makes sense, when you use Dulcich and Sutton with Wilson. Wilson's pretty cheap. He is only 5,800. And that's basically the price point where Daniel Jones is, and Jones is pretty popular. So, why not make that little bit of a pivot against in a matchup that is just as good, realistically.
Do you run it back with Jacobs in that case?
I probably would. I don't really like anything else on the Vegas side. I think Davante Adams is just going to have a impossible day with that secondary. And I don't think I like Moreau enough to use a double tight end from this game.
I feel you there. Oh, you're right, because you're using Dulcich as your second, not your Dulcich.
If you use one of the if you use one of the secondary receivers like Hinton or Virgil, then you can use Moreau as the run back instead of Jacobs. But I don't really want to use both tight ends from this game. I don't think it will be that type of environment to do that well.
I don't disagree. Yes, I'm starting to build our $3 our little play action lineup just in case this is the route we want to go. Can't imagine it is, but I'm just gonna leave that there for now, just so I formulating ideas as we talk. I do like having late game exposure here. Game of the day, Dallas, Minnesota should be the chalkiest chalk that ever did chalk. Everyone's in play in this game. I think they really are. It should lots of exposure here. I'm actually not running this as my main stack as much. I have a lot more Jefferson, Lamb mini stacks or Lamb Hawkinson, though mostly Jefferson, Lamb with stacks like what we see in front of us here with that. How are you playing this game?
Yeah, I really like the Jefferson Lamb correlation. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you stack it, you're going to stack from the Dallas side. I think Thielen's in play a little bit also. I just can't find myself getting to using Cousins because if that Dallas pass rush is on, I mean, Cousins is one of those guys that with the extra pressure, he kind of folds a little bit. I mean, he can still get enough production, I think, to maybe get Jefferson there and all, but I don't know. I don't really know what his, if his upside is really going to be there.
But look at last week. Jefferson got there easily. 50 passes, 357 yards, 20 points. Like, he did not come close to being there. He hasn't done that all year. And Jefferson's gotten there frequently. This is one of those, if you're stacking on the Minnesota side, I just wouldn't do it. Like, I wouldn't. I do have one Cousins stack, but I'll probably end up changing that to a Russell Wilson stack now. Because the more I'm thinking about it, Cousins is just not going to carry two receivers most likely. You're just better running the Dallas side with Jefferson, and so that's and you can do that with Lamb and Schultz as your two receivers from Dallas, and that's got to be the way to do this, right?
Yeah, I think so. I do. And also too, like, Dallas is beatable on the ground, so I think there's a good case for Dalvin Cook, who's going very overlooked as well.
Yep. I have quite a bit of Dalvin Cook, Cook Lamb or Cook stacks, just as mini stacks. That's a good call. I love your thinking there, dude.
Yeah, because also too, I mean, if I don't think it ends up being a problem, but if this turf toe does end up limiting Jefferson a little bit or doesn't have the same explosiveness, they're probably going to have to rely on Cook a little more to help move this offense.
Very true. Finally, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. It's a weird game in that I'm only running two defenses this week. I'm running Pittsburgh or Houston. That's it for me. But I also really like Cincinnati, and I think you can get both sides on this. Not that I'd run Pittsburgh in a Cincinnati stack. I'm running the Pittsburgh defense. I'll run Houston defense, but like, I think Pittsburgh can get there. 3-4 sacks, a couple of turnovers, and I still think Burrow can get 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I just think this is one of those Jameson type games where both sides of this game could be a little bit viable. Is this a game that's getting overlooked a little bit? Is this a game that you're kind of digging on?
Yeah, I love the Cincy stack. I do. I mean, Burrow, not having Chase obviously hurts, but Burrow was starting to get into the groove. And then, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I guess I should say, 2 games ago, the Cleveland game, Burrow was okay, but he didn't do that much there. And then the Carolina game, it was just the Joe Mixon show. Burrow didn't play bad, but he didn't need to do anything either. Just because, they dominated with Mixon, and that game was over before it started. But I think this can be a little bit more. I think it's going to be a little more of a competitive game. And the easy part, too, is, the Cincy passing game is so much more consolidated now. I mean, really, in this situation, it's Higgins and Boyd. That's really it. I mean, Hayden Hurst gets some love, but I wouldn't probably stack them.
Not enough upside.
So, and that to me makes it very, very easy. Who's your run back in this game, though? I like Pickens.
Who's your run in this game? Pickens. See, I'm running Freiermuth as my run back on this one, but
okay.
I think, Pickett likes Pickens too, so that's a good one. And they more involved with that rush touchdown, I think that shows they're putting him in that Claypool role a little bit. So I do get Pickens. I don't have any Pickens today, but I do have a lot of Freiermuth. I think that's a nice little pickup right there as a run back option.
Yeah, the Bengals are like,
wow,
Bengals
Gutta, look at that, 12-13. We covered all the games. What?
No, I was just gonna say that the Bengals are like mid-range against the tight end. So Freiermuth is solid, and he's a bigger part of the offense without Claypool there now too.
I do have a little bit of love for Najee if I'm running the Pittsburgh defense just as a mini stack Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Najee, Pittsburgh defense without any Cincinnati, just because the touches were there, not the target volume, though he might get there, hopefully more so. But like Najee's at some point, like the guy's got to not suck, I would hope. But I don't love him, but at 5,500, he's a valid option that gets touches. All right, Gutta, let's build the lineup. Do we like just running it from the Cincinnati side? Is this a good start for you? Because your eyes kind of lit up when I mentioned Cincinnati, and it was like the first stack that you seemed real excited about.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're gonna put a lineup together. This might be the one to do it with.
Yeah. Let's do the Cincy one because, like I said, it's very overlooked, and they've definitely have one of the higher ceilings on the slate with how their offense can go.
Now this is this is our lineup, so I'm more than willing to listen to the arguments for a Gutta stack or running back defense if you don't want Houston in this case, because that's pretty much the only other defense I've used. Or if there's another direction you want to go, I like to throw this in there now so we can kind of see where we're going elsewhere.
Yeah. Defense. I mean, for me, it's always just kind of whatever, unless I'm purposely trying to fit in a little bit of a higher price defense, which the only one I would kind of jam in would be the Patriots. Short of that, I mean, defense is just whatever fits.
But like, are you cool? Like, do you want to run a Stevenson Patriots defense, combo? That way, if the Jets get smushed, at least you benefit off it.
Yeah. I mean, we can let's roll with it. Let's see what we can fit in.
All right, tight end maybe next. Got it. Well, running back potentially.
I mean, if we're looking some value, I mean, I think Drake is in that perfect spot, or even Singletary actually.
Ooh, Singletary. Ooh, next speak of my language, because then you can run Singletary. Check this out. You're on Singletary. We need a cheap tight end, so we can run a little Njoku.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sweetheart. I'm still streaming. Which leaves us just enough money for Paris Campbell.
Does it? I think we're 100 short. Is he 44 or 43?
Nope.
Oh, he's 43.
Look at that. Wow. That's it. We're taking down the 100 grand today. You and me, 100 grand, taking it down. This is it. Okay, I know. I double clicked. Stupid ass computer. All right, look at that. I think this is a great lineup. This lineup makes me so happy. Let's we were okay last week. Last week's lineup, we hit like on our first four guys. We both predicted Jonathan Taylor would be the number one running back last week, and that worked out really well for us. And Devontae Adams is the run back on that, worked out really well. And James Conner was a great pick with our Arizona defense, but like there were some mid players that cost us in this lineup. But like we hit hot from the beginning. All right, let's enter this lineup. Let's use some points here. Might as well use some of those crowns because I'm cheap. But look, if you notice the balance, it's going back up. Hit on second place in the showdown last week for 300. Nice. So yeah, that worked out nice. I needed that. Daddy needed some money. All right, Gutta. As we have been doing, let's finish off with a prediction for this week. Hit me hard with something. Last week
I've got
with Jonathan Taylor was our first really right call of the year, other than me saying Nixon. Be my regret.
Yeah, I've got
more than one.
I've got a bunch this week that I like, so I'll kind of rapid fire them to you.
Let's hear it.
Nick Chubb, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson, 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Mariota, 25 fantasy points. Let's see, Gabe Davis, top 5 receiver this week, and Ben Skoranek, 7 catches.
Oh my God, so many. All right, I'm just going with the one because no, I'm going two. Number one, Devin Singletary, going to have himself a nice little game. He will be a nice piece. A Devin Singletary, David Njoku mini stack will be quite dandy this week. It'll work out very well. And on the other end, Jalen Virgil will have, we'll say he goes 4x on his price. So we'll say he gets that's 13 fantasy points at least for Jalen Virgil. And I'll throw in a Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins goes 14. So 27 combined points for Virgil and Watkins. Sure.
All right.
Let's do that. All right. That's it for this week. We're getting out almost on time. Look at this has been Heat Map Fantasy Sports Live, NFL Week 11, $3.99 a week at Jackson to everything that we do. All the sports, all the things. $3.99 a week. Check out my pin tweet at Bankster17. You can see the name right underneath there somewhere. All right. Gutta, have a great weekend. And everyone else, thank you for joining us. Thank you for whatever. We appreciate it. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will be back next Sunday. Best of luck, and let's go Devin Singletary.